Welcome to Bringing Jesus Back into Focus. I'm a Christian. I'm not a Jewish Christian. Christians believe this. I belong to the original followers of Jesus 2,000 years ago. I'm one of his original followers. We're scattered around the world, but there's not many of us left now. First of all, our belief is quite straightforward, really. The Jewish religion, I was born into the Jewish Christian Catholic Church. Well, I had to leave that church when I was around 16 or 17 because they were teaching that the Jewish God Yahweh in the Old Testament, I didn't even know why we had that in our church. That's a Jewish religion. What's that doing there? We're Christians. But anyway, they had it there and they read from it because Yahweh is the God of Jesus. And there's a bit of love there and there's this other violent stuff. As you're a child growing up, you just don't question it. But once you reach the age of reason, I did, of course. I said, wait a minute. Jesus is love and non-violence. He says God's love is like the sun that rises on the good and the evil. That can't be Yahweh at Jericho. I mean, that can't be the God of Jesus at Jericho. That Yahweh can't be the God of Jesus. They're different. That's a slaughtering, murdering God. And Jesus said they're worshipping Satan anyway. So by the time I reached the age of reason, I could see there were big flaws in the Jewish Christian churches, not just the Catholic Church, but all of them. They actually had become corrupted by the Jewish religion. They were poisoned. So I left. And of course, the book of Revelation is just the most slanderous document I've ever seen written about Jesus in my life. And that has been written by an apocalyptic Jew to destroy the connection with Jesus and who he really is, to assassinate him, assassinate his identity as a spiritual child of love, of a loving spiritual being in a heavenly spiritual world of only love. That war god and that person on the clouds, which is Satan, that's nothing to do with Jesus or the loving spiritual creator in heaven, I assure you. That's a place of love. They can't do that. The loving creator of Jesus can't hurt you. Jesus can't hurt you. We hurt ourselves. We create our own hell by hurting children here. Then when our spirit leaves, we'll be in a hellish experience equivalent to what we've caused here. Buddha taught it, Jesus taught it. They both had the clear light mind experience, which means they removed the dirt from inside their mind. Adventitious negativities, Buddha called it. Jesus called it the dirt inside the cup. Inside your mind, there's dirt there. Until you clean it out, you won't have the same experience that I'm having. I'm at one with love. There's a world of love. There's a creator there who's incredibly powerful because she's pure love. That's what's so beautiful about her. But her powerful life force creates this spiritual universe and spiritual world, and we go there in a spiritual body. So I'm a Christian who believes this. The Jewish religion is dualistic, not monotheistic. One body called Yahweh, sure, monotheistic body, two heads, war God and the God of love. That's the first thing you have to get under your belt if you're a Jewish Christian and get out of it. Come to be a Christian. Join me and be a Christian. And there aren't many of us left in the world. So that's the first thing you have to acknowledge and say, oh, that guy's right. The war God can't be the same God as that loving God in that book. The Jewish religion is false. Half of it's good, half of it's bad, evil, satanic. So get that out of the way, cut the Bible in two. Rip out the book of Revelation, just burn it. Throw it in the rubbish bin, because that is pure slander. Then you're left just with the Gospels and the words of Jesus. Then you just eliminate the apocalyptic lies about it. Matthew's the worst. He's manipulated and done some cutting and pasting. You can see it. Once you've got the book of Thomas, the Gospel of Thomas, which they tried to destroy, because it shows where the lies are, in Matthew in particular, and the distortions, the way they've deliberately perverted it, to make him out to be Daniel on the cloud. Someone's done it. It may not be the author of Matthew, but someone's done it. Someone may have overwritten Matthew and poisoned it. And they've laid a paper trail through the book of Revelation, whoever did that, in order to assassinate the identity of Jesus and the identity of the loving spiritual creator and the true way to heaven, which is love and non-violence. So we don't believe in the book of Revelation. That's a filthy, slanderous book. In fact, it's evil. It's satanic. I'm a Christian. That book is satanic. That's what I'm saying. The Jewish religion, half of it worships Satan, a Yahweh that's a satanic war god. All war gods are satanic. They've got another Yahweh of love. Okay, that could have led them to the awakening that Jesus had. But Jesus was the first Jew that we know of that had the full clear light mind experience of only love. That was when his spiritual body became fully awakened, and then he realized, when my body of flesh dies, I'll actually be living in a spiritual body. I know I've got one now because I'm only love. So that's what Christians believe. I'm a Christian. So I've got a much different view, and I didn't realize how unusual that was. After my mother died about 8 or 9 years ago, my sister died 3 years ago, I had some free time on my hands. So I investigated all the local churches here in Melbourne, Australia, Because I'd never been to other denominations in my whole life. I just went to the Catholic Jewish Christian church, and I was really shocked. I was just shocked. Some of them were just synagogues. They just went on and on about the old Jewish religion, and Jesus is coming on the clouds, and he was a sacrificial lamb, and his blood cleanses of your sins. And they weren't even reading his words. They were hardly ever talking about his words. It was all about Yahweh, how Yahweh won the war here for the Jews back there, but the Jews did the wrong thing, and so they got beaten in that war. Jesus said, love your enemies. Why are you talking about that rubbish? So look, I got so upset, in fact, at one point. I just thought, I've known Jesus my whole life. His love and non-violence. He is deep in my heart and soul since I was a little child. I was blessed by heaven to only ever see his words when I was going to church. The parables, I've always loved his parables my whole life. They came into me and stayed with me and have never left me. I'm no saint or anything, but they guide me through my own, challenges and troubles or failings, and they are leading me to heaven. He is leading me to heaven. And it's astonishing because I'm fighting a deadly neurotoxic fungal infection at the moment, which is poisoning the brain. And the medical profession here in Melbourne, 5 years I've fought to get the proper medication and they've refused. And it's almost as if once I started working on this work, it's almost like Satan was able to get them on board onto his side because they're just so, they're incompetent and negligent here in Melbourne, these people, but they're so arrogant. It's just shocking. They're not doctors at all, uncaring, no love. It's unbelievable. So I thought, wow, I just better stay with you then and get ready to pass away. But I take natural things. But what's happened is this sort of persecution against me now. I've even had friends insult me and abuse me and things as I've been getting sicker and sicker. And it's been so weird. It's such a weird experience. But the more I do this work, I can see, how as you move into the truth, and I'm attacking Satan, of course, the satanic war god of the Jews, Yahweh won, so I'm attacking that war god and saying Christians have nothing to do with that. Don't have even anything to do with the Jewish religion any more than you would the Quran. But what's happened is this incredible sort of dark sort of forces sort of amassed around me on the earth world, and yet I've been totally supported from heaven and inspired to keep doing this work. And although I've been in extraordinary agony and pain, because my spirit is so keyed into him and who he was and who he is now in the heavenly spiritual world, they've helped me be able to talk about it in a way which is like a lay person, but you'll find there's some fairly good dialogues and historical facts, particularly in the other book I've done, the teachings of Jesus Unplugged. That's where I explain about the two-headed God and we got two bodies and that sort of thing. So the teachings of Jesus Unplugged is the other book that's available. But this is just the Gospels. So anyway, I ramble on too much. But I just love talking about him, so it's a bit tricky not talking about him. Will I do that again, Joe? What do you think? I'm asking my sister in heaven, will I do that again? Have I rambled too much? I'm not sure. I'll leave it. And we shall carry on. All right, we'll carry on. I'll leave that there. The thing is, the way I talk about Jesus, I'm just a follower of his, but I'm a Christian. I'm not a Jewish Christian. You won't meet many Christians in the world anymore. They're nearly all wiped out. They're all worshipping the satanic war god Yahweh and Yahweh 2, the Yahweh of love. And they've got Jesus, and then they've got the proper, only loving God. So it's very confusing for Jewish Christians. And a lot of them are teaching a lot of slander about Jesus, claiming to be Christians when they're Jews. Leaven in bread. Matthew 13:33. Jesus said, the kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour until it was all leavened. Author, bread made from flour does not rise and remains flat without leaven or yeast being mixed in with it. The yeast multiplies with moisture and warmth and produces pockets of air that make the dough rise and become soft. Likewise, the words of Jesus awaken our true spiritual body and soul mind of love that is within our body of flesh. They bring us the living water and the warmth of our loving Creator's love that we need to grow in spirit. His words transform us and we rise up into our spiritual life of love and non-violence, which we need to become at one with, to enter the heavenly spiritual world of love. So the leavened bread's a nice one. See, Jesus was able to help the people who were still worshipping the two-headed God, give them simple little rural analogies sort of thing, daily life things, to help them explain this flat bread has to rise. And of course, your spirit rises from the dead body of flesh. You know, he's trying to gently lead them into that ultimate truth. Your spiritual body's going to arise out of your body of flesh at death. But here he's just saying, the kingdom of heaven's, you know, like leaven, 3 measures of flour until it was all leavened, until it had all risen. You see, his words go into you until finally you come alive and you have arisen into the spirit. Just like a flat loaf of dough, or flat amount of dough, rises from the working of the yeast in it. Yeast produces gas, and the gas in it creates the air pockets, right? So the yeast produces all this gas, but it's got to have moisture and warmth. Yeast will not grow in moisture and warmth. And I mean in cold. Sorry. Yeast needs warmth and moisture. Well, the loving creator is warm. She only loves you. She only warms you. She'll never hurt you. That's the loving creator of Jesus, not Yahweh. There are 2 Yahwehs there. That's why you can't even talk about Yahweh. You've got to say Yahweh 1, the war God, or Yahweh 2, the God of love. But Jesus is with a singular, divine loving being. So her love, or his love, if you want to use the male pronoun, I use she. Her love warms you, warms your spirit and your soul. She loves you. Even if you're in trouble, she loves you. Even if you're sinning, she loves you. She'll never leave you. You're her child. You have a spiritual body. That's the part of you that is her child. Your physical body of flesh and blood is just a biological earth creature. But your spiritual body is her life force in you, in a beautiful body to have, like an angel's body in heaven if you want to have it. But you have to move into it now, overcoming all the temptations of the material world and the body of the flesh, to become a child of love and non-violence. Then your spiritual body awakens and the nexus is joined to heaven. It opens, and the heavenly spiritual life force is like a wellspring welling up inside your spiritual body, and you will have eternal life. You only need her loving spiritual life force, which is pure and clean, to enter into your spiritual body and mind, which has to be pure and clean. Clean the inside of the cup out, Jesus said. Otherwise you won't experience what I'm experiencing. You must become clean. Don't hurt anyone. Buddha said the same thing. Then you'll receive this loving connection. That world is only love. As a Christian, I'm telling you, you have to love to get into heaven. If you're a Christian and you love some and kill others, like they do in these satanic war armies, you're not a Christian, you're a Jew. Jews do that. And secular people do that. Secular people kill. Secular armies kill. Gangster, armies kill. They're all satanic children. We are the spiritual children of light on earth, but we have to awaken. So the flatbread rises. That's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Bread made from flour does not rise and remains flat without leaven or yeast being mixed in with it. The yeast multiplies with moisture and warmth and produces pockets of air that make the dough rise and become soft. Likewise, the words of Jesus awaken our true spiritual body and soul mind of love that is within our body of flesh. They bring us the living water and the warmth of our loving Creator's love that we need to grow in spirit. His words transform us and we rise up into our spiritual life of love and non-violence, which we need to become at one with to enter the heavenly spiritual world of love. It's such a beautiful thing. Such a little saying has so much in it. I love it. I've always loved his words. I talk too much about them. I ramble on. Better move on. Hidden treasure in the field. Matthew 13:44. Jesus said, "The kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And in joy over finding it, he goes and sells all his material possessions and buys that field." Thomas 1:09. The kingdom of heaven is like a person who had a treasure hidden in a field, but did not know it. Thomas is a little bit more exacting. At death, the owner left the field to his child. The child did not know about the treasure either, but took over the field and sold it. The new owner went ploughing and discovered the treasure and began to lend the treasure at interest to whomever he pleased. Thomas is beautiful. I'm glad they tried to destroy it. The Jewish Christians tried to destroy the Thomas Gospel because it's mainly a Christian gospel. That's why they wanted to get rid of it. Author, Jesus is saying within the combination of these two versions that the spiritual treasure of our life, the spiritual treasure of your life, is buried within the field of our body of flesh. But we must plough or dig beneath our earthly identity of flesh to uncover it. That's what he's saying. Your spiritual body's inside you. It's the water in the vase. Remember that analogy. Your spiritual body is like water in your vase. Your vase is going to be smashed to pieces one day and the water's going to evaporate. That's your spiritual body's going to leave. Is it clean or is it filthy like all the satanic murdering warmongers of the world? Their water's black, filth, stench, stink. That can't go to heaven. That has to go somewhere else to be cleansed. They call that hell. Many do not know about it, so cannot tell their children how to find it either, which is a sad thing. Jesus again directs us to not let material things dominate our life, and it is more important to gain this spiritual treasure and eternal life than holding on to material things that all perish. Once we do find our spiritual life, we can share or lend the loving spiritual life force that sustains us with everyone we meet. And the more love we give to others, the more interest or love we receive from our loving spiritual Creator. That's what's meant by, once you find this spiritual treasure, you can lend it out to others or give it out to others with interest. You see, once you awaken to your spiritual identity and your spiritual mind connected to the heavenly spiritual world, you've opened the nexus to another dimension. That's the nexus. That's the wormhole, you might say. But it's a loving wormhole. It's the loving life force. We can't see it. Eyeballs can't see it. But you'll feel it in your mind. Your spiritual mind will become placid and serene because all evil will be destroyed, removed. Where there is light, there cannot be shadow, false identities. Where the good grain is, the false grain can't be. The shadow figure of, Netanyahu, Putin, the Israeli army, the Hamas, Russian army, Ukraine army, Iran army, these are all shadow figures now. They're shadow figures. They're devoid of spiritual life in all their murdering actions. Your spiritual body can't hurt anyone because it can only be empowered by a loving spiritual life force from the nexus that opens to heaven. That's what Jesus called the wellspring within. That's the nexus. It wells up into you and you're filled with this loving life force. So much so that you even love the enemy. So much so that Jesus said, don't worry about anybody who can kill your body of flesh. That's not who you really are anyway, if you only knew it. Your body of spirit won't die. But if you cover it in sin and murder, you're going to suffer after you die. Your spirit will suffer. Don't do that. So there's the challenge. It's beautiful. His words are beautiful. They make perfect sense. Very logical. But you've got to get rid of all the lies and Jewish overlays and things. And of course he says, like the chap went and sold everything and bought the field. He sold all his earthly wealth to buy that field. And he's talking again about let go of the material things, or lessen your grip on them, you might say, and hold your spiritual life more strongly. Don't hold on to material things so strongly. We all need them, but let them just be used and move on out of this world in your spiritual body. Beautiful. One pearl, Matthew 13:45 to 46. Jesus said, the kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise seeking beautiful pearls. The merchant was wise, for when he found one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it and made it his own. See, once again, we see this human being, this child, discovers their spiritual body. That's what he's saying there. That's what he said in the last one. Treasure hid in the field, sold everything to buy the field. This merchant sold everything to buy the one pearl. He's talking about your spiritual body that's in you right now. You've got one. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Jew or Buddhist or an atheist, you've got one. This is a universal teaching. You've got to understand that. I'm a Christian. I'm a universal sort of spiritual child of the loving spiritual Creator on earth. I'm a follower of Jesus. He's universal. I'm universal. His teachings are universal. So are Buddha's. It applies to everyone. Everyone has a spiritual body. Author, Jesus again repeats the same message, to be wise and find the one true spiritual eternal life within us all of great value. but we must seek it to find it and not be attached to all our material belongings. Our spiritual body and soul mind of love, once we have awakened into it, becomes our primary identity to live out of here on earth and in heaven. We need no material possessions in heaven. This is a world of dirt and gas exploding suns. Violent universe. We're going to a heavenly world, those of us who want to follow Jesus there. No one can hurt us there, and we won't die ever again. We'll die once here, of course, yes. Could be very, very painful. But once that's over, if we've awakened our spiritual life and our spiritual mind of love and lived out of it and made it our primary identity, and that's who I am, that's who I'll be after death. If I've covered myself in murder like the warmongers, their spirit will suffer enormously. I feel very sorry for them all. Satan's children. Satan's armies, the Israeli army is now a satanic army. Russian army is satanic. Hamas is satanic, Iran satanic, Ukraine satanic. They've all got the same uniform on, but they just don't see it. They'll all know it after they die. Unless they repent, of course. We hope they repent. Jar of flour empty. Now this is a good one. This is from Thomas. Jesus said, the kingdom of the heavenly spiritual world is like a woman who was carrying a jar full of flour. While she was walking on a road far from home, the handle of the jar broke and the flour spilled behind her on the road. She did not know this was happening. She had not noticed the problem. When she reached her house, she put the jar down and discovered that it was empty. That's the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? I'll tell you what that means. Author, Jesus is saying that the material substances and earthly life force, the flour, bread, man shall not live by bread alone. Jesus is saying that the material substances and earthly life force that support our physical journey as we walk along the road of life in the body of the flesh are always slowly running out. When we are born, we start our journey from earth to heaven and are at the farthest point from our spiritual heavenly home. But as time goes by, through following the spiritual way, we can come closer to heaven. And just like the woman carrying the jar of flour, our spirits must carry our body of flesh with us until we get home to the heavenly spiritual world. So once you're spiritually alive, you're really just manifesting your spirit through the body of the flesh until it dies and you leave it. Then one day our body of flesh will run out of its material energy, death, and lay down upon the earth empty of all life, just like the woman's jar was empty of flour when she finally reached her heavenly home. The life force in the physical body stops and ends and there's nothing there anymore. But she's looking at the jar that's empty. The spiritual body had left the physical body. That's what Jesus is saying. That's what heaven's like. You go to heaven in your spiritual body. So he's trying to help us understand this through this very beautiful saying. The woman in this teaching of Jesus only discovered she now had another spiritual body to live out of when she left her dead body of flesh at the time of its death. And that's what he's saying. Which is now just food for the vultures, as Jesus said in his teaching about two bodies in one woman's body groaning at the millstone. He says that. One dies and is food for the vultures, and one is taken to be near to our loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love. It's in the Gospels. It's in his words. Jewish Christians don't tell you much about that. They don't draw your attention to that, because that goes against this dead body of flesh rising up at the last day and all this rubbish. This is the truth. If we are well and our life is rich in daily activities, we do not think much about dying or how we are getting closer to our death experience every day. Just like the woman travelling through life, she didn't notice the flour was running out of the jar, did she? She didn't notice it. Time's ticking away, death's getting closer. The time of leaving her body of flesh is nearing. She didn't notice it was really, she didn't sort of notice it was getting closer. Although if she was getting older, she'd notice, as most elderly people do. But we should think about our death experience every day, as it helps us to prepare by really valuing and making the most of what time we have to love others, and grow stronger in spirit. We should think about death. The Buddhist monks will meditate on death, actually trying to think of what it's like to move through the death experience and out of it. That's a Buddhist meditation technique, to get ready to leave. But of course, the way you get ready to leave and be healthy is to become at one with love and non-violence. If you live in a sick spiritual body covered in murder and death from murdering other children, like all the satanic armies are doing, you're going to be in big trouble. So we get ready to die, not by meditating on death necessarily. You don't have to do that. I do, but it's about preparing by becoming loving now to pass through death of the flesh and leave in your spiritual body, which you have with you, and it's going to leave your physical body when it dies. It'll just pop out of it, sort of thing. I don't know how it happens, but it does. And you'll still be there. Your spiritual mind will be there. Now, has your spiritual mind been alive and filled with love, or has it become a filthy, stinking mass murderer of one of these satanic armies in the Middle East or wherever? Because those children, when their spirit moves out of their body of flesh, they are going to be surrounded by screaming terror of all the children they kill. And that will be them. They will experience every death they cause. And they will be screaming in darkness. Horrible. They're heading for a really bad time. So if our life becomes a little bit too well off and too rich, you tend not to think about death. But as a spiritual child, we should always think about heaven. The only way to get there is to die to the body of flesh anyway, and arise in spirit and leave it at death. But you have to bring your spirit alive first to have it ready to leave, and death will come at whatever time. And it's extremely important to live out of love and non-violence, extremely important. There's nothing more important in this world really than that, because all goodness comes into the world through spiritual children of love and non-violence. And that's coming from heaven. And that's why Jesus could heal sick children. He had the nexus opened from his spiritual body, which was clean and free of sin. He overcame temptation. He wasn't born perfect and that sort of thing. He became enlightened, as Buddha became enlightened. Buddha had to overcome temptation of Mara. Jesus had to overcome temptation of Satan, the Satan figure. These are all representations of the egotistical mind and, the false identities of Putin and Hitler and Netanyahu and all these people who murder and kill and dominate and steal land and whatever they're doing. They're all false identities, shadow figures. You must not do that. You've got to overcome those challenges. Remain just a spiritual child, or as Jesus said, only be like a little child. If you want to enter heaven, be like a little innocent child. That's how you're going to get into heaven. Well, how many leaders are like that? Thomas 98, sword through wall. Jesus said to them, the heavenly spiritual world is like someone who wanted to put a powerful one to death. The heavenly spiritual world is like someone who wanted to put a powerful one to death. He drew his sword at home and thrust it into the wall to find out if his hand would go through the wall. Then he killed the powerful one. It's a bit cryptic, that from Thomas. However, this is one of the interpretations which I use myself. So we've got the heavenly spiritual world. So Jesus is saying, you've got to get to the spiritual world of love and non-violence. But this person wants to put a powerful one to death. Now, sin is very powerful. Jesus said that. He said, don't worry about anyone who can kill your body of flesh. Be frightened of sin. That's powerful. That can send your spirit and soul into a hellish experience. He's talking about sin. The powerful one is sin, which the common term is satanic sort of sin. So someone wants to put this powerful sin to death. So they're trapped by sin. They're surrounded in sin. They're committing sin. A wall of sin surrounds them, preventing them from entering heaven. That's what Jesus is saying. He drew his sword at home and thrust it into the wall to find out if his hand would go through. Then he killed the powerful one. A spiritual child may find themselves surrounded and imprisoned by a wall of sinful behaviour, which has powerful control over their life. From within our spirits, that's where the sword is. It's a spiritual sword that destroys sin. That's the only thing that can destroy it. From within our spirits, we must draw the spiritual sword of light and truth, wielded by the hand of love. You've got to accept that you've been sinning. That's the truth of it. You've got to acknowledge that. And light destroys all darkness. That's the power of the loving spiritual creator in heaven. She is light and love. So you've got to be truthful about your own wrongdoings. The sword is light. It destroys all darkness. And it's wielded by the hand of love. You must return to become a spiritual child of love. Once you do that from within your spirit, the water in the vase, see, it's the vase that commits all the sin. The physical body sort of does all the actions driven by a false identity. Then, once you've got that sword in your hand, then you thrust it into the wall of false sin to break through it and kill the powerful temptation that took control of us. So you have to have the sword, spiritual sword, which comes from within your spirit, which is connected to heaven, where you can't sin in heaven. There is no sin there. So you have to move back into your spiritual identity and get the qualities of a spiritual child. That's the sword. The sword of light and truth, wielded, it's a spiritual sword of light and truth wielded by the hand of love. What that kills is sin and darkness and evil. They're all false. But sin, as we know, can be so powerful that these satanic armies at the moment, they've killed hundreds of thousands of men, women and children up in the Middle East. Hundreds of thousands, blown their bodies to bits, blown legs off little children's bodies. These are satanic. All these children are satanic. They are surrounded now by a powerful dark force around their soul and spiritual body. And they're living out of the dark force identity that they have now become at one with. Satanic. That's what Jesus is saying. Beautiful saying. It's cryptic when you look at it by itself, but of course, because I'm a Christian and I read Jesus' words and I understand them, then it's much easier for me to at least provide insights into the constant main direction. Move into your spiritual body, Chris. Bring it alive. People have hurt you. Doctors are refusing to give you medicine. And people have been threatened who have been helping you. Don't worry about them. Pray for them. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They're lost. They're being manipulated by a satanic dark force. You think of heaven. You write about us. You talk about us. You talk about the way you know us as love and non-violence, because the Jewish Christians are slandering us. Speak out against them. Do it. Do it from the heart. You're not a theologian, but just speak from the heart. You got half a brain, you can do it. I said, okay, if you think so. So there you go. We'll leave it there. Sword through the wall. I love Thomas. It's just fantastic. We're so lucky they discovered it. Wow. So lucky someone hid that. The Jewish Christians wanted it destroyed. In the teachings of Jesus Unplugged, I give a dramatic example. I think it might even be in the next episode. But the net cast into the sea in the book of Thomas is the correct original saying, and Matthew has totally perverted it. He's taken it and perverted it. And if you didn't have the Gospel of Thomas that they found, you wouldn't have known that Matthew perverted it and distorted what Jesus said. It's beautiful. Thomas is great. Well, love your way to heaven. I'll move on to the next part now. Love your way to heaven. Of course, love your way to heaven. Don't do anything else. You've got two bodies. Your spiritual body believes at death. Forget about the apocalypse. Jesus doesn't have to come to destroy the world. We're destroying the world, obviously. Climate change, etc. He doesn't have to come to do anything. We're doing it all. We're poisoning the rivers, etc., etc. So we are the ones who are living a really bad lifestyle and no respect for the planet or nature or other animals or creatures. We're not living a simple life like the Amish in America or native people who just lived a simple life. The Aboriginal people in Australia lived here for 50-odd thousand years. Their civilization, 40,000 years old. We've been here, the European sort of civilization, for a few hundred years, and we're destroying the place. We've already chopped down forests, poisoned rivers. Oh, blimey. See, but spiritual children can go a lot longer than children who worship material things, because all material things in the end are useless. It's the spirit that helps you respect others, helps you respect life, helps you only take what you need to live a simple life, and then the world and the planet is safe for the next generation of children coming here. There we go. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. So love your way to heaven or hate your way to hell. The choice is yours. But I assure you, the loving spiritual creator of Jesus and Jesus himself, they cannot harm you. We harm ourselves through harming others. Don't do that. You'll be sorry. Bye for now.